this is Gary, and this is Missions Moment with Sam Hershey, who is with Navigators. And we're just going to ask Sam a few questions about his ministry. And Sam, how long have you been with Navigators now?
Oh, gee, thanks, Gary. I think it's been 43 years now, so it's been a little while.
And in that time, have you been stationed across the U.S., or have you stayed mostly in San Diego?
Well, I have. I started my career with the Navigators in Alaska in the military ministry, and then was married to my wife, and we moved into a collegiate ministry with the Navigators. And then probably about 4 years into that, we moved into the division that works with churches. It's called Navigator Church Ministries. And so I've been in that division for a number of years, and then was the point director for it. I'm serving on the director team right now.
So Sam, what are you currently involved in?
Well, thanks for asking, Gary. For the last couple years, I've been chairing a endeavor that is going to happen in 2020, and that's when our core discipling tool, the Colossians 2:7 series, which trains disciples how to have a quiet time, how to memorize scripture, how to share their faith through their personal story and through a gospel illustration, and equips them for praying the lost, and equips them to train others to do the same thing. Well, this tool is probably the widest used discipling tool in the world today. Over 2.5 million people have experienced it, and in the year 2020 it turns 50 years old. So I'm chairing what we're calling the 2-7 Jubilee 2020, and we're going to have a main event at Glen Eyrie, which is our headquarters in Colorado Springs. And then we're going, and guess when it's going to be? It's going to be over the weekend of 2/7/2020. And David, you should come to this, and maybe some others. But it'll be Friday to Sunday. And then following this main event in the U.S., we're going to have 9 other regional events that will just be a one-day event around the U.S. And that's going to be in New York City and Washington, D.C., Oklahoma City, Dallas, Texas, Houston, Texas, Los Angeles. That's going to be a Hispanic one. And in the Bay Area, there'll be one in the Bay Area. And then we're going to have about 13 international regional events in Russia, Mongolia, Hong Kong, Singapore, Canada, and there'll be about 5 in India. I don't know if I mentioned India before or not. But I'm chairing that, so we're getting it organized, getting it queued up, and we're going to have an anniversary edition of the 2-7 series, and also we're going to introduce a new book. It's currently a 3-book series, it will then be a 4-book series, and that 4th book will introduce the idea of how to take a participant in the 2-7 series and turn them into a leader and a disciple maker. And so I have a good team that's working on this, but it gets to be quite challenging at times, and but anyway, that's the main thing that I'm working on, and so I'm focused on that till the year 2021, because that's when it will come to a conclusion. And it's interesting, I'll just say this fairly quickly. When I first heard of a Jubilee, I thought a Jubilee is just a time of celebration, but I did a little study on it, and it's not just a time of celebration, it's a time of remembering. It's sort of taking a pause and doing a reset, like you might do with your modem or your router, to get a fresh connection with God, praising Him on something that He's done, remembering it, and then kind of doing a fresh restart with it. And just like with a router or modem, when you turn it off and turn it back on to do a fresh handshake, that's what we're doing, to kind of revive again the passionate folks to continue to disciple those that are doing that, and to recruit new people into this vision of disciple making. And one of the exciting things I get to do in all this is next August, if things continue to work well together on all this, I'm going to be going to Russia to do a video in Russian that they'll use there, and also in Mongolia for promoting the 2-7 series. But that's the main event. That's the main thing that I'm working on now, besides just some personal ministry things that I do there in San Diego County. And so,
Can you tell us a little bit about your very first experience with the Colossians 2:7?
yeah, well, my very first experience, let me say my very first group that I led, the interesting thing is I'm still in touch with all the men that were in that group. The thing that's interesting is they're all still discipling other people today. Wow. They're not all using the 2 7-seaters, and that's just fine. But they are discipling other people, and they've discipled their kids, you know, their families have done well. Not that they haven't had their challenges and that sort of thing, but that was the outgrowth of the very first group I led.
Were you ever a student in that discipleship series?
You know, I wasn't. I started off because when I came into Navigator Church Ministries, this was kind of like the core tool. I said, train me in it. And so I kind of did it along with this first group as I was leading it.
Sure.
And actually, that's what a lot of people do. You don't have to be a seasoned person in it to be able to do it with other people, because it's not complicated. I'm pretty excited about it, as you can tell, because you know, with over 2.5 million people experiencing this, it's just, we'd like to see another 5 million people get involved with this around the world, you know. So anyway, but hey, I really appreciate Seaview staying with us and contributing to us and praying for us. We have a special needs son, Shad, and there's been times where he's really gone through it physically. About 3 years ago, he had a stint of about 4 years up to that, where it was real touch and go. He was in and out of urgent care once a month, at least once a month. He's doing very well now, but you guys really prayed with us during that time, and we really appreciate that. And your prayers, your financial gifts, they keep us encouraged and motivated. So thank you, and we appreciate the ministry you're having to us and through us that really is touching folks as far as India and Russia and Mongolia. And it's just amazing how God uses anyone who wants to be active in the Great Commission to advance his cause in very simple ways. So